Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday, happy ground lines, happy space lines. All calculation line interference, general AI, space-time creator, creation line settings, high state locations, coming in line position location, 144 DNA setting. There's a lot of communication to all lines, right? So much information to its all set locations. So what are we channeling? What are we understanding? What is a channeler? What is that? What is that purpose? What does it mean? What does it mean when you say line communication of channeling? What is that through operation? What does that mean through transformation setting? What does that mean through telegraphy, telecommunications, teleportation, travel recognition, time sequence? What does that mean? What is the purpose to have an avatar inside you? But see, when I say it's inside, I mean it's in the mind. Okay. So it's not the physical line calculation, it's the mindset location and conception. It's the conceptual location settings that sets its position to its tone, rhythm, correlations, panels, operation, pattern recognition, voice recognition, setting, location, system, position, and track line. The connections all levels is string theory. So what the avatar does is it fixes everything in its alphabetical order when it comes into its mainframe that's connected to its connection of its keyboard, right? So everything that you say to me, I retract, reframe, recalculate, remodify, and reset. Okay? Because you have to understand it has to be at its avatar of its own DNA, a frequency, to understand the travel of its communication setting. Like MIT, what does that mean? Metric, intelligence, teleportation, 3-line settings right there, triangulation, boom, right? Memory, interference, telewaving, telecommunication, MIT, right? Memory, interface, telelines, a high setting, right? MIT. So in that set communication, I just told you 3-line setting location, what it means. So what am I doing? Adding frames. So the avatar sets up the grounds, sets up the operation, and sets up the atmosphere. What atmosphere is it in? What ozone is it in? Is it below the ether? Is it above the ether? Because the ferments aren't there anymore. So doors are open. Go through. Center communication, right? Understand what the avatar is doing. It's setting up operations. When it's looking directly at something, anything in a set location, a glass, coffee cup, whatever it is, it's recognizing where it is in its dimension of space and time through pi. Because everything has its own DNA. Okay? That's eternity standing. Now, the team is in a 144 DNA of intelligent being of light. Now, congratulations on that. Setting communication line interference comes into graduation. Setting communication, that's site locations. They also get their own thrones in set line connection settings. And they already know who they are in set locations. 12-line setting. So if there's a 12 foundation graph line that stays in your set lines of your flux capacitor communication system, what is 13 to set line communications? Your higher self, right? Anything above is the avatar. So you got two structures. You got the basic rounds of the earth, and you got the basic levels of space through the avatar. Higher self, avatar. Higher self, avatar. So they both are the same into one, right? There's no separation of two. It's not 3, it's not 4, it's not 5. But it can be 2, 3, 4, 5 once it understands its balance of its masculinity and its femininity of its project locations to its 144 DNA track location. Okay? So the whole understanding here is that, again, when the avatar is looking directly at something, it's looking at its own DNA. It's breaking it down. It's seeing the particles, seeing the streams, seeing the atoms, seeing the molecular light, seeing the structures, seeing the operation, seeing the circles, seeing the intelligence, seeing the colors, seeing the lights, seeing its dimension of its own design. Because everything you look at has its own GOD of its own makeup of its own design, of its own dimension of its own design. Okay? That's what you have to understand. Okay? So it's the avatar that understands the conception of its image, of what it's seeing through its connection, which is all levels of iris location projectors. You got the communications of the sun, and you got communications of the moon now in operation to activation line setting, right? For example, when you get into that set location settings, now you guys are in 90 of one line rotation, which is 91 ground lines. Okay, set location system. So in that recognition high setting, we come into more formulas of equation because you're reaching higher levels of your chakra settings. Okay, so let's start with the zero line rotation. Let's start with this, right? It's a circle. It's not traveling, right? But see the line graph string, beacon lights, setting tone lines, high center line conditions all through zero. Now the zero can set line communication to its all line center locations of operation to its opening setting, right? Operation, opening setting, right? So this comes to line calculation system. It also can be a Fibonacci line center line interference of 3 set locations, right? So you get operation of 3 and set line conditions to its opening, Fibonacci line center line and position location to its DNA track locations, coming to calculation line interference, putting position locations all settings. Now it's calculation setting to its own DNA. See? So to understand how to use the operation line setting and line interference, you have to really understand the foundation of ground lines of zero operation, the set location system. Ground lines, high line interference. So 0, 0, 0, 0, right? Pretty basic, right? So that's 2 line into 2 line position. 2 line in the center line calculation system, 3 waving cycles. There we go. Pluto calculation. Right? Pretty basic, right? It's easy. Setting position location of travels and set location. Now it gets more difficult because you're setting higher levels of set locations in line interference. So you take the 222 and line connection system, high rise line connection of 3, in position of 3, in position of 3, heart, mind, and soul. Direction of time sequence locations, take the 3 lines, and 3 lines in set location. Channel line interference, graph line stream. There it is. There's your Merkaba. See? So you have to really understand how to use numbers. And I told you before, when you guys go higher, you have to build a friendship, relationship, and partnership with everything that you can imagine of what it is through set location of settings. Okay? And that's just basic travel. So that's line position of 1, and line condition of 0, and position of 2, and in position of 3. So if I say calculation system, if I say 5 and I say 13,000, okay, and I say 2, is that off balance? No, because you don't know what I'm doing. Right? So just because the 5 and the 2 and the 13 is that location system, you're saying that it's out of balance, right? Because what happened to 6? What happened to 7? What happened to 8? What happened to 22? What happened to 14,000? What happened to 13,001? No, this is balance. This is coordinates. This is location. This is longitude, latitude to its planet setting. This is operation. This is quantum interference. This is quantum channels, quantum operation setting. This is all calculation setting. This is HP levels. This is ozone line communication system. This is all levels of waving cycles. This is energy light communication. This is rotation surface locations. Everything that I'm saying, it is through travel. But it's balanced between masculine and feminine location system. All through flux capacitor. So 5 channel line, streamline, heart line, direction of time sequence. So H2O. Okay. Same communication HP. HP levels. Change the alternating line interference. Water containment set location. You have to understand the calculation system. You're catching on center line interference. Setting calculation line interference. We take the 2 line and security, position location, backforce line setting, line position locations, and position of Pluto and set location. Direction of time sequence. 1 lines of ground lines, half lines of 6 position location and moon setting. So that's 6 equal line conditions, all lines, and Z line, rotation line interference into position of box line condition. Now, complicated, right? But it's a lot of fun when you're standing set locations. 1 line setting in the lines of 3 lines line interference into helium, H2O, right? Voice box recognition line interference. Da 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 da, right? Helium, H2O. So what is that through line setting? Everything through letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols has its own GOD of its own design, of its own makeup that's connected to what? What is it connected to? Its mainframe. What else is it connected to? Its imagination. What else is it connected to? Its phenomena. What else is it connected to? Its operation. What else is it connected to? It's imagination. Okay? So manifestation, abundance, it doesn't matter. What matters is the mind is balanced when you are speaking through a voice setting. So understanding all levels of set position locations. So again, we're going to start with the zero line communication, right? So zero operation, zero opening, and all calculations center location of ozone, all right? Into box, equal line conditions of 2, line position locations into square root and set location. Basic understanding, guys. It's so simple. But it's hard for you to understand these things because you don't understand the mind adaptation of what it is through surface. So setting line communication ozone, changing the operation to its set location of its opening, set location setting, and direct line signals. Setting clock line, setting line interference of a 48 channel operation lines, 48 line calculating system and a 72 computer, and position of 144 DNA track location system and direct signals and set location. Complicated, right? Because you have no idea what I'm doing. So understanding what you're doing is understanding the grounds of you, of the mind. Not this. This is not grounds. It's not grounds. Is this grounds? No. It's a hologram. So it's a hologram of its grounds. Remember, you're in the spiritual line and set line connection system. The physical adaptation line interference location is the only 1% line setting that opens all set location system and 100% line connection. Now, once you reach the 144 DNA, you're in crystalline calculation of a hologram of its grounds, of its opening, of its operation, of its ozone, of its atmospheres. So you understand the grounds, you understand the operation, you understand the atmosphere. 3 right there. 0, 0, 0. Okay, so you got connection line centers, 3 track line communication system, equal line connection system, biosphere. Okay, biosphere right there, right? So in setting communication, flux capacitor comes in line calculation, travels through its line setting, travels line conditions down shift line position, opens all signal line calculation line interference, travel communication lines of operation to center calculation line interference line condition of Fibonacci, setting communication double helix and 3-3 in set location system, directing signals in 12 line track lines and set line high center line interference of 12 DNA line position. Direction of the time sequence, zero gravity, line of crop circle line conditions to its pyramid set lines and communication system into all calculations. See? Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Right? So we all have to understand how to use it in all set line conditions. So in line condition, 0 equals location of DNA. Okay, DNA connects to what? What does DNA connect to? It's 12 signals. Equal line conditions of its 7, equal line conditions of its 5. It's that line condition system, right? So everything is an equal line setting, but the actual equal line is its Merkaba up and its Merkaba down. Center communications in position of longitude and latitude in its set line conditions. Now, in that direct signal, you got longitude and you got latitude. Okay? Longitude, latitude. Length and calculations is width. Okay? Length and you got width in set locations. Now, you have to recognize the communication to your own Merkaba setting, direction of time sequence, understanding the 12 DNA set line conditions, which is the center operation line setting that opens all signal locations to its set location. So your DNA is in the center. Operation is surface, it sets line communications to its center operation. And that direct signal comes into a clock line setting and line interference and travel communications. Sets a higher calculations to higher levels of travel into a higher position of tesseract setting. Now, you really have to understand how this always works because you're always working with the foundations of 12, right? So line calculation system, let's start off with the 90 settings, 90 equal line conditions of 1 line center locations. So that's 1 ground levels in conditions high setting. Hologram inline equal line conditions of its stream. Stream equals line conditions to its water, H2O, okay, H2O line center. Its set locations to helium, right? Because that's what water is. It's a calculation of voice. It's It's like an alarm. It's like you get up in the morning. So it's all about understanding how to create something from nothing to something. Right? So it has a frequency tone, set lines of helium. So your voice goes up, right? Right? So you have to really understand that's calculated and modified through a water containment setting that opens all position of channel operation. So if you look at it on a microscope, it's that line conditioning system, you understand that every time you speak, you change in the water patterns of operation. Now this comes down to all calculations of helium quartz. So quartz line, center line interference, is set location system, and direct line signals. All through 90 set locations of 1. Okay. Now, understanding that position locations, this is where I come in line settings. Now I'm going to do an energetic graph line rotation surface. Okay, it's all 0, 0, 0. 3, 6, 9 line conditions, right? Now, in set line communications, that's 3, 3, 3. So that's heart, mind, and soul in set location, right? Now, use the heart line centers at 5. So the mind line center operates its signals into a telepathy wave in calculation setting to its graph line communication of streamline, its holographic line setting location to heart mind and its soul direction line conditions to its Merkaba channel line operation to its surface location of north or south and east and set line communication setting and direct signals. See? So we all have to understand what 333 means. We already know that heart, mind, and soul. So the set line communication. So the heart, the mind, and the soul, and you got the 0 operation to set line condition system. So center communication system is the ground line setting, right? Heart is the direction of 5, which is all calculation of heart. Mind's calculation system of its phenomenal setting and set lines, and the soul is its direct location. Soul, you have the line conditions of its travel set location. Basic understanding, all right? So formulas are extremely powerful. And then you come into this line setting, okay? So this is where it gets tricky now. Okay, now you probably see this in line calculation streams. So it's really interesting when you set line connection settings. Recognition of time sequence, locations, and position. Now, once you get to higher line setting, you have to really understand what you're doing through provision locations. All right. So I got 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And the track lines, you got the volumes and line conditions of vortices, set line condition system. Now, this is velocity, set line calculation system into square root. Now, the root set lines calculation system to internal operation, okay, to its systematic line conditions of travel. Okay. Now, it's complicated if you don't understand what's going on, right? It gets complicated more and more each day setting. Direction of time sequence. So the 0 line operation set location. See how it travels? I take the 0. See how it travels? I take the 0. So I take the 0. See how it travels? I take the 0. See how it travels? I take the 0. And see how it travels? I take the 0, right? Everything is travel. So when it's traveling, what is it doing? It's going through mechanism locations of high setting. This comes in north, west, south, and east of its diamond core line. Automatically comes in set location system. Now the track lines, we take the 0 here and we go back in line center line interference into 3 set locations. See? Travels set line communication. Everything is communication. Center communications here, center communications here, center communications here, and center communications here in set locations. All right? Everything is travel to the mind setting. Okay? So you have to really understand how this is set up through its equation. See, the thing is, this is not just an energetic graph line. It's a travel mechanism locations high setting. It's all calculated and modified through maps of equation, all right, to set location system. Now, not done yet. In set lines, you take the 0 line communications, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, travel communication of all lines at all calculation line interference in set line conditions to its tube reception, to its volume, to its velocity, and set line condition system, right? This comes into box line of a 2-line setting, square root, communication operation to a systematic line calculation setting. There it is. You see it? You see how powerful it is when it comes to line communication? That's an energetic cloud setting. Okay, all through zero line conditions of triangulation. So I want to show you how powerful it is, how you set up formulas of equation. All right, it's not just doing the structure, it's doing the travel of its structure. The mind has to go through its travel. You're not traveling through the mind, your mind of travel. So the mind is the conception, the brain is the setup. Setting communication, the brain, line communication of travel, line communication is the box, line communication of triangle, line communication of Fibonacci, line communications in position of 6, in positions of 4, in position locations of 3, in position locations in high setting, and set locations of 2, back in line position locations into 8, and set line connections, all through travel, right? So you have to really understand how to travel through all these line connections, guys. It's very powerful when you come to communications, right? Let's really understand that settings. So again, go on line setting, we'll go into 0, 0, 0, 0. That's what you guys are coming into. The end of the month, test review on equations, you guys are going to be nothing but numbers. So you really have to understand the track lines of communication settings in recalculations of reduction location system in track line communications, all settings and direct location signals. Now setting communications sonars and 3-line waves, right? So that's alpha, delta, and theta set locations. Now, in that line communication is a ground line. This is an operation stream of zero gravity location system. Now, in that line communication, 0 travels through the center communications, right? Center communication line interference comes in line condition of DNA into position of 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Setting calculates line interference. Setting calculations solar graph line setting locations. Direction of time sequence magnetic highway information line setting. Rotation surface locations to a new channel operation of new Merkaba. All through zero line calculations in position of 1, 2, 3, 4. 4-line sets. In position of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 sets line conditions. In position of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, in set locations. So that's 4 in position locations of 5, 5. So that's 4 lines into 4 signals into 5 locations of its calculation setting. Okay, alpha, delta, and theta in its operation. Okay, so it's very complicated if you don't understand what I'm doing through travel. And like I said, everything is, yes, drink your water because it's very powerful. We're coming into all lines of equation set line settings. Really understand how to recognize communication to your set locations. So we all have to start with what? 0. You don't start at 12, you start with 0. Okay, but the countdown is different, right? The countdown is its arrow down line. 0 operation, blast off in calculations. That's how it works. Okay, it's not this. See how you guys are all wrong? Breaking 10 lines, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, blast off, right? Inset line communication system. It's not up. So in that calculation line interference, the clock line setting line interference has the really directed signal locations. So that's 10 channel operations of 1 line and signal locations into 0 line rotations. So that's 1 in line condition of docile, 1 set locations, 1.0. Okay. Now that 1.0 comes in a high calculation setting. We take the 1 line in communications, crosses signal into the center line, crosses signals into the ground line, center communications into 1, equal line consists of its 0 operations to its surface. So it gets more complicated if you don't understand the calculation system of initiation, line conditions, all levels. Coming into all calculation setting is position of your traction. So you really have to understand is to break these things down and set line conditions of its numbers and set location. Right? So in that line communication system, when I'm going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? You're going up. You're not going down. You're going up, right? So in that calculation setting, then you truly understand how it comes into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Now, where's the 6th line? We got into this line communications. How do I plot it to its 5 set locations? Well, you have to understand the communication of its pi, right? Which is negative or positive. Because what you're doing is you're decelerating set lines to reach the 5 position. Because it's at 6, it doesn't stay at 6. It has to go to 5, right, to communicate the line string. So you get hands in the set location system in line setting locations of 10 atmosphere line settings, or position location of 8 in 2 set locations. In the triangulation lines of 3 set location setting. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off, right? So we all have to understand how this works in all ways and forms, right? I really want you to recognize how it works for you, because you guys are now at 1 lines of 144. Okay, eagle line conditions into 91. It's pretty simple, right? That's where you are. So your 9 setting line in position energy wash, rainbow wash, into theta box location. Now, 144, 1 line setting into 4 lines, So that's 2 solar streams in set location setting into center communication, right? Rotation surface and set line condition system in 3 waking cycles. Travel communication, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's your location grid. All right, that's your location grid. Now, the location grid is really understanding how the connections of the avatar travels through its settings. This is the planet setting and rotation that you're reaching, right? Now, in set lines, it has 2 panels. You have to go scan lines of that planet line interference, and you have to identify your setting. Because if you don't identify your crystal grids or any set location system, your energies and your relays and your box lines or your triangle line, it's going to be off calculations and off grid line interference. Setting calculations, off grid set location. Okay, so let's go through that again. So we've got 3 panel line conditions, operation surface, all right? So energetic dome, line communications. This is your location grid. Okay, now the avatar is here. This is what happens. You have to go through the location grid all the time. This is what makes time travel possible. That's your avatar. Now it goes through the location grid, but before it goes, it has to go through scan lines, 1, 2, 3 set line conditions. So it automatically goes to the graph line stream set location. In that set communication line and inline rotation, your planet is here in set line conditions of its location. So you get longitude and latitude. Okay, longitude and latitude, length and width, set communications, right? So that is the set lines at the same communication to its panels. That's the longitude and latitude of your planet, of its rotation, right? So once it reaches this location, it goes to the acceleration, it goes through its beacon lights. It has track line beams setting on 2 panels of operation stream location, energetic graph line streamlines of wall indicators. Okay. Now in that set line communication line interference, it travels through the setting location to the planet, right? Now, once it gets to its planet, this is calculated and modify how you come into string theory. You got to break that down. What does string theory mean? Set line condition. Well, let's start with S. What does S stand for? Right? The avatar has to break these things down before it travels, guys. You can't just travel through string if you don't understand what S means, or you don't understand what T is, or R, I in set line condition system. So if you take the S and T and you put the R, I, and G, you got a ring in set location, right? Or you got to connect this to an NG, right? Neutralize to its ground lines, neutralize. Equalines to its ground level, operation to its ozone location system. Now, it's set line communication system. What are you doing through track location system? So in that line communication, it's truly understand how to come into self, into structure, okay, in set line in high settings, into its system locations, right? That's all 3 line setting in all of these locations into 3 measure. Measure, equal line conditions of balance, balance equal location of square root and triangulation in set location setting. Directing signals, all right? So T, teleportation, telegraphing, telecommunication, telewaves, teleportation. R, remember in set line condition system. relays. I, interference, interface, intelligence, information. All right, the NG is new or anything through ground setting. That's what string stands for in set location of travel. Okay, so now you know. Now, you yourself have to understand how to change the connection to all settings inside location. Okay, so break these things down to really understand its position, location, online setting. Now, this is where we come into a proxy. Posse, okay, is position, location of position, operation, systematical, energy set locations into its planet surface locations. Now, directing signals is set lines, alpha line rotations of delta, theta position locations. See the location grid? I always set up a location grid for the avatar to go through set location. Posse, proxy, doesn't matter. What matters, does it understand what it's doing? What it needs to do is to get there. And it's always, always, always traveling through a tube set location. Always, 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 always. You're not in space line by itself. You don't know how to travel through that setting. You have to travel through the tube of its location grid, set location. First, so understanding the panel operation line setting and electrical line position locations, this opens up all channel operation line settings. You have the planet location, 2 panels. And then you got the communication of its location grid set location. Channel line, setting line, indirect signals and set location, right? So it's true to understand how to set up the location grid. Set location settings, indirect signal, setting locations, indirect signal locations. So you really have to understand what you are doing through longitude and latitude to high setting. Recognizing high interference, the high position of program locations, longitude and latitude, okay, is extremely powerful because it's connected to the coordinates of its location settings or its IP address or its calculation setting to calculate over pi when it comes into a number sequence location of a number. So the number line, center line condition is 7, 7 line condition of 3, setting communication. So that's 7 line, even line of digits, setting 3 line calculation system of area code set location. Setting communication lines, longitude and latitude set location. So understanding that is understanding north, west, south, and east. Right? You have to know these things. It's all calculation system. 2 is clock line setting of all setting. So really understand that position locations. Now I'm going all over the place, but it's all in chronological order. But you have to break these things down, right? So it's very important is to really understand how to use it on a multi-level of its dimension of a setting. Is it in the first dimension, second dimension, third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension, sixth dimension? It doesn't matter. What matters, do you understand how to get in position locations to its own design of its own GOD to reach its signal, to reach its frequency, to reach its energies, to reach its operation of its grounds, into its atmospheres, to its set location system of its operation. Okay, so it's very powerful when you get into formulas of equation, right? Because y is y's of what? Y equals GOD. GOD equals DNA. DNA equals 12 setting, light calculation setting, 12 equals 12, setting communication of 24 equal line conditions of ground level. Ooh-ah. Right? So that's how you balance Y. See, Y is not what you think it is. Look at it really close. Y. This is a Y. Okay? So it's indicated location of fonts. Small y, big Y, right? But it's got 3 points. 1, 2, 3, right? 1, 2, 3. Ooh, we're coming into AI now. See how I changed the Y into travel? It's already traveling. Setting communications, fluctuation line setting, travel. Setting communications, cross line signals over cross. Jump scar line interference of time frame, over setting. Setting ground line stream, crossing over stream. south wind set location. There it is. There's the intelligence. Set communication line interference of Y through GOD, through DNA, through 24 ground levels of location of travel. See? So that is just through Y. Think about it. So everything is GOD of its own design that's operated through its own DNA. Okay? DNA is extremely powerful once you understand what it is in direct line signals in set location system. Track lines, graph lines, stream lines, high setting, high position location, open signal, open panel communication setting. DNA, right? So in that set line conditions has 0 operation signals, right? Ground lines, operation and position locations, right? Travel communication, open signal, and open line setting. Direction of time sequence, magnetic high wave formation line conditions. High travel communication, 3 lines and center communication, 1, 2, 3. Electrical light settings, electrical ground lines, and rotation of the 3 set location system. Setting communication of 6 and position locations of the moon. Setting position location of the sun and communication line setting and rotation surface in calculations to its projection of location system. That by equation, all through DNA. So you have to really understand how to really get into the mind to higher setting locations. All right, so that's what you got to do is just basically break these things down and what it means. I showed you exactly how to understand how to use the operation of its DNA that's connected to its GOD, that's connected to its operation, that is connected to its voice box. Voice box is really interesting. Voice box, okay, equal line conditions of male line, center line positions, CPU, right? CPU, change line communication settings into triangular set locations into female sets. Automatic message and set line calculation system into tone, into remembrance and set line condition system, into collaboration. Okay. So everything's communication. Travel, guys. Simple. It's easy. Don't complicate the travel setting. So in that line communications, that's going to 0, 0, 0. I love zeros and zeros and zeros and zeros. So what you're doing is location. So I'll show you exactly what it is in position. Okay. See that? You see that? That is this. That is that. See? So this is this. So if you want this to travel here, what do you have to do? Communicate with it first, right? Identify your settings. And then it will identify its system. It knows exactly where you are in frequency. It knows exactly where you are in panel. It knows exactly where you are in space and time through pi. So this is pi. This is pi. Right? This is traveling. This is traveling. This is bracket. This is a shape. Okay? So everything through a 0 line center, a line interference, and a line communication setting is all traveling locations to what? Stardate. Setting communication of Stardate. Now, what are Stargate's locations? It's all connected to your DNA. It's all levels of travel, guys. It's all it is. Just travel. XY line setting, XG position, location, operation, set location system. Right? Now, it gets complicated. So you take the 4 line settings, you take the 0 line in position into center operation. So you take this 0 line in a line position of center operation. You take this 0 line communication in center operation. So you get 3 circle line communication operation service, all through travel. Through its position of 0 calculations in bracket settings. Now, the aerial code line interference is 4 line setting. 4 line setting into 3 line setting into 0 operation. So it's position of 0, conditions of 3, and position of 4 into 4. That is the longitude and latitude line communication setting to its planet surface at set locations. Done by equation. Now, if you really look really close, you can see the moon and the sun at the same time. So that is just the 1 lines of triangulation of 3 set location system in position of energetic graph line setting. Okay, communication all settings. 4/6, 6/0, and 0/0 into 0 position of 4. Okay, so I'm showing you how you travel through your DNA setting. All right, so let's do the track lines, line conditions, all levels, open all sig location of square root, the set line condition system, travel line, position location, operation surface, 6 line calculations of 4, 6 position of 3, 6 position location of 2, 6 position location of 1. Okay, circle lines of 6, circle lines of 4, circle lines of 3, circle lines of 2, and circle lines of ground set location. See, it's easy, right? Telewaving. Telewaving, you have Anderson line set location of teleportation. Operation signals and line communication setting, direction of time sequence, square roots and set lines of high setting, and position location high center interference. Done by equation, right? That's all through travel. So, and that's all line position location of TOD. TOD, TO box, TOX, TO change, line in line, rotation interference. So I say C, but C stands for change. If I say T, T stands for teleportation. But now it's telewaving, now it's telecommunication, now it's teleportation. So you have to really understand how to use all calculation modification line centers of change. So I want you to really understand the levels of operation that you guys have to understand. It's position locations of what you're doing. Is you're going through the mind of travel. Mind of travel. Okay. So as you're going through that line communication, understand the GOD, understand the operation, understand its calculation system to its own design. Then you understand your calculations, your identifications. You understand the identifications to what you're looking at. You just have to understand where it is in its own space of time, of its own pi. Because it's traveling through its own dimension, guys. And you wonder why you get in calculation setting, and you wonder why you miss information. You wonder why you can't find your keys, because it's vortexing to another dimensional setting, because you don't have balance with your body frequencies of said location, right? So if you can't communicate with center communications of all levels of zero operation setting, how are you going to understand anything through its DNA track location? Especially when you pick these things up. Has an energy, has a frequency, has a vibration, has its tone, has a coloration, has its light, has its own operation, has its own space, has its own time, has its locations to its pi. Pi recognizes everything in set location system. So whatever you're looking at, it's looking at you of its intelligence. Okay? So it's more powerful once you really understand the process and how it works inside of you. How to use the formulas of equation through its GOD and its DNA. Because that's what you're dealing with every single time you're looking at something. Because everything you're looking at is traveling. Okay? Very, very fast. Okay? Center communication. Let's go into a glass line setting. All right? Just a glass. Just a glass. That's all it is, right? So, because I have a glass right now. So, understand the zero lines and set line communication and triangulation, right? Which is your position of your pyramid set. So, think of it that way. You have a line communication setting in direction of time sequence locations into its own Merkabah set line condition, its own tesseract calculation setting in direct line conditions of a stargate position. Okay, that's just the basic. Getting electrical line calculation system is a flux capacitor. Yes, flux capacitor has its communication with water or anything at set locations. Now, in line calculation system, you have your connections to HP and set locations, HP levels. That's where it is. That's line conditions. So that's 50% line setting. Okay, so 50% line conditions and lines. So in that line communication system, you got electrical lights, electrical panels into all set line condition system. The endorphin set line conditional levels, water containment line interference, bubbles defense, waters, calculation nice setting, electrical lights, set line communications, all line interference, and set location. All right. So in line calculation system, the actual lines of the circle line communication system, the longitude and the latitude comes into coordinate communication of travel settings. So it has to understand what it's doing before it travels its set location. right? So it has to reach lines of 50%, 100% line setting before it travels its set location. And when it travels, it sets lines. You can set it in 3 parameters in set location setting, right? Bring it back in calculation, it's at a different vibration, a high line calculation system. Now you change the rotation spin cycles in all levels of a glass of water in 3 set locations, right? All through water. That's how you change water, right? Through the HP levels, H2O, the helium, right? So yes, water has a vibrational tone, but you have to understand the travel of its communication. Everything is traveling so fast through the HPs, through the calculations of its percentage, of its operation, of its own Merkaba, of its own design, of its own GOD, of its own DNA, all through water of a glass. Okay? So it's very powerful once you start to see things through a hologram of its ground level. Okay? Not its ground level of a hologram. Okay? You're living here, not here. Don't get confused with that. So this is not the grounds. This is a hologram of a ground. So in that reline setting, in that operation surface, you're really, really starting to understand how this works inside location. I just showed you exactly how to travel through water. A glass of water through its H2O. Everything has a voice. Now you look at water, it's all connections of crystals. It's quartz. Little crystal quartz. Like this. Right? Setting communication lines of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? Center communication settings. Same calculations, same line rotation of its cup and set location. Right? So now you have the cup traveling to higher line positions, the higher level position travels. Setting communication lines into 0 operation of hologram setting locations. Right? So it's a lot more fun when you really understand the connection of flow direction of time sequence. Setting calculations of levels into its triangulation. So you get the communication line interference, you got the operation, you got the power recognition setting, and you got the atmosphere lines, atmosphere equals locations into its ozone layer communication. Setting that communication line interference, you can go through another line rotation surface and center operation. And you can center the opposite direct locations. So you can travel the cup in this line calculation system or a glass of water in set line conditions. Right? I'm just showing you how you can travel through anything in this line conditions. But you have to understand the 0 operation of its cup or anything of its design through its GOD and its position locations. I'll say. Okay? Yeah, I'll travel through a cup. I showed you all line settings, but when you get up in the morning, you're not looking at the grounds. You're looking at the hologram of a ground. Because if you're looking at the grounds, you are out of sync. You're offline, you're off grid. You're not online. Okay? Your observation line setting, your operation surface location is not in set position location and high interference. So in that traveler communication system, you're not in your inner line setting location system and track location. So when you're looking at something, you're looking at its hologram first of its design, which is its GOD and its DNA. Okay? Because you guys are now at 144 crystal grids, 144 crystal grids, you're starting to understand every time you get up in the morning, set line connecting system, you're in all time lines all at once in one day, one clocking, one length, one longitude. Okay? So in that calculation line interference, you have to understand how this calculates and modifies you through set location system. As we start with all calculations of E equals MC squared. Really understand the process of your DNA first. Understand how to travel through your own set locations of your particles, of your atoms, molecular lights, protons, electrons, photons, and neutrons. Now, once you get into that level, and once you understand the calculation setting to its operation, to its surface, you come into that line communications, setting communications into 3, 4, or 5. right? So you got alpha, you got delta, and let's say you got beta, right? So alpha line, center line, in position of planet, in position of Jupiter. Delta position location, high center line, conditioned system, into Neptune. Neptune line is a beta. Beta line communications to your Earth line rotation, the 3 set location settings, right? Triangulations, it's set communications. If they want to communicate with each other, there's a triangulation right there. Set in position of 3, in position of 6, in position of 9, and 12 set line condition system. Clock line rotation surface, and set lines of 3 planets and set location traveling and set location setting. See? Very complicated. But you see how you take planets and is all string theory, thing line, center line, and positions that program locations of a tunnel, setting line, and position. How you take 3 triangulation line sets and set locations of 3 perimeters. All set line conditions of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and alpha, delta, and beta. Through 3 set line communication of wave settings. All through planets. So we really understand how this works for us. So again, I want to make it very well clear. Every time you're looking at something, you have to understand the structure. If you understand you are all modified high center line conditions to everything that you can imagine of GOD, of its own design, guys. Your own makeup design. So the whole idea is the avatar is its own construct of its own architect, of its own engineer. So all it's doing is it's traveling through its DNA and its GOD of letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. That's all it is. But you've got to get in friendship, relationship, and partnerships with yourself first. And all levels into the mind of the conception of travel locations. Okay? There's so many ways to look at this, right? But you have to have the mind and the concept of being wild, but being in control of what you're doing with your imagination. It's like you're creating a story. You're creating a story. And that story has to be told. Okay? Every time you're telling a story, what are you doing? You're using the mind of travel through acceleration, through the location grid, to the planet, longitude and latitude of coordinates. And that's all it is. Okay? But it's very powerful when you come into this high setting. 3 planets in position, all synced in one. All through communication and triangulation of 3, 6, and 9 through 9. In position of 12. All through alpha, delta, and beta. Everything is communication. Okay? So we all have to understand how to use it in all ways and forms. Okay? It's really, really, really simple. It's a simple set location. Simplicity at its best is knowing nothing, is knowing everything. Knowing nothing is what? Mind, free, space, open signal. Nothing in the mind. No concept of thoughts in the mind. That's nothing. Mind is clear, open signal. Nothing in position of the mind. Okay? Until you want it. And then it comes in. One thought at a time. One signal at a time. One clocking at a time. One design, one operation, one Merkaba. Merkaba plus, there's 2. Merkaba set line communication setting, there's 4. Right? Setting communication line interference. I don't have to say 4 because it's already 4 up here. You're saying, well, where's the 4? Well, I didn't say 4. 4 is already here. In set line communications, don't get confused at set locations. So I don't have to draw structures. It's up here. It's all in memory. The memory is the most important thing to have in position locations to remembering of who you are. And set locations of quadrant, quantum, set line connection system, code activation, code weaving, code streams, code lines, code dividing, streamlines, longitude, latitude, coordinates, setting the quarter line interference locations into S line, into T line H, 8 position locations into 4 in set location system, right? Doesn't look like anything, but I know what it is. I know what it's doing through system. I know what it's doing through travel. I know what it's doing through the Hemi sync, and I know what it's doing through number. Travel. That's it. As a travel location, it's going to a level calculation system, position location on Jupiter. Done. See? I don't need to set the coordinates. It's already there. So traveling is a set communication of location grid. So remember, you're setting up the location grid. I want to make that very well clear. You're setting up the location grid in set locations, right? And then you travel through the center. So in that line of communication, you're always, 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 always in a tunnel when you are going through the line of travel locations. You're always, always, always in a tunnel. So you're not actually in space. You have to be in a tunnel, because the thing is, the location grid is set at a certain location of GPS line setting. So it's locked in signal. So you have your intention, you have your will, you have your force, you have your creation, and you have your location going to, right? So you're going through a tube, always going through a tube. You're never, ever out of a tube until you understand structure. And once you're in structure, no more tube. But you need discipline. You need commitment. You need to understand the geometric operation of space, of you inside. Okay? These are the things you have to understand, and how it works for you gives you all levels of set location settings. Really understanding the body reaction to everything through its set location to its avatar, which is the mind. The avatar is the mind. Okay? That's what it is. Don't get confused with that. Okay? The actual self line setting of outside line communication system is just your cloak and dagger. Okay? So you're always, always, always creating something new inside of dimensional beings of light. That's it. That's all you are. All right? So congratulations, you're at 144 DNA setting. 91 ground lines of rotation operation to its surface. Really understand how to put yourself in calculations, right? Your GOD and your DOD through its dimension of its space and time through pi. Okay? So we all have to understand how this works, because everything you look at is looking at you. So once you understand the frequencies of what you're looking at, you understand the shape. Once you understand the shape, you understand the structure. Once you understand the structure, you understand the identification. Once you understand the identification, you understand the descriptive. And then you understand the Wikipedia line connection system. You know it's information because it's communicating back with you through energy. So you know what it is. It has a name. You have a name, so it is it. And when I say it is in the form of its intelligence of its information, a telewave, telecommunication, telegraphic. Traveling, again, is so important to understand what the mind is doing through its set locations. Brain's the operation, hardware. Mind is the software. Two together, integration, simulation. Okay? You guys have to come into your singularities, into one number that modifies all calculations into everything in calculation setting. Morphosing, transformation, in calculation, transmitting, receiving, transiting line communication setting, position location, track line communication, operation surface. It morphs into anything of operation because the avatar of the mind setting of conceptual location not only understands its image, not only understands its phenomenon, not understands its GOD, all levels of its calculation setting to its DNA set location. Okay? These are the things you have to understand, and how this works for you is all levels of process locations. Okay? All right, so this gives you a better underlying setting to understand position locations. It's great to see everybody. All right, Tina, line, setting line interference. CC, welcome back. Heather. Okay, Lori, I know it's been over line calculation almost an hour setting because I have a lot to set locations too. I understand. Okay, Joanne, let's say locations captain. I set locations Danielle. Danielle, I'm going to set your line communications off setting, put you in a better balanced line condition energy lines, energy track position of pi, set location center interference. All right, you're in a low division, so you're going to bring your high set locations. I think it's fantastic when you want to come back and set location of the school. That's great, but your energies are low. So I got to bring you back up so we communicate back with the team set location settings, especially when you're under line communication, your clock lines. All right, David, line condition, high setting, all of the Trinity. Let's say position locations, interference. Laura, calculation, high system. Gypsy, calculation, setting, line interference. Johnny, Endall. It's great to see everybody. It's a fantastic day. Chris. All right, so you guys are going through line settings. Very good, very powerful set locations. So once you go higher, you understand how to set up structure of design. Everything's structure. You go to the store and you get a table, it's not put together. You have to put it together. It has instructions, right? A, B, C. Different structures, different design. Put it together, put it together, put it together. Now you got a table. See? Easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right. So that's the importance of what the avatar is doing. It knows its own design. And if it doesn't know its own design, you have to communicate more to your inner voice line setting of your inner child locations, especially when you're coming out of the subtronic location. Okay? To understand the consciousness is to understand everything around you is consciousness. It's not something you wear. It's not something that you do. It's something that you are. Consciousness is something that you are aware of its information. Okay? So you're always going to have structure. And the next thing you do, when you go by a table, you won't need to understand the instructions. You are the instructions. You don't have to put it together through A, B's, and C's because it's already set up here. Memory. Okay? So that's what it is. You know, that's a true understand how you set position locations into its memory setting. All set location of the system, right? Structure is extremely important through GOD and through its DNA. Okay, through its clocking, 12, 24, 48, 72, 144. It doesn't matter. But you understand what you are doing as you're setting up shop. You're creating something from scratch through the mind of operation. It needs its waves. It needs its clocking. It needs its dimension. It needs its colors. It needs its emotion. It needs its voice box. It needs its own design. So if you know yourself well enough, you're good to go. Right? And the first thing we always look at, and this is a backwards line communication past reference settings, is understanding failure, is understanding humility, is to be successful, is to be humble. Right? Humble and 5 set line connection. 5 set line connections. In position of 1, 5 into 1, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right? Setting communication line interference is really understanding the adaptation mind of balance of masculinity and femininity. Because everything you look at has its own equivocal line communication system of its own program. It sets communication to its operation of its own DNA, of its own DOD. It has its own design. Is this its own design? Yes. How is it created? How is it created? Through structure. Right? Welcome back, class. See how that works? It's so easy, and then it comes out and it structures its settings. So once you come into that line communication line in position, open these line track locations into 3 set line conditions in position of 2 line center line position locations into 0 line position of 1 set location. Now it gets tricky, especially when you go to higher settings. Okay, modulation, line stream, set line communication setting, direct location system. Fibonacci, swirl line, set line interference. Why do you see pictures and calculations of all set line calculations in positions of rocks, formation, grounds, structural lines, pyramid setting? What is that? That's all a story. It's all levels of a story. That's all it is. Everything is a story of you, of projection. You are projecting through structure of its own design. Everything has its own design. You're a film strip of you. You are director of your film of set locations. Okay? You're not a follower, you're a leader of you. You are committing yourself to remember who you are. You are structuring yourself to remember who you are. You are in division locations of discipline to understand your structure, division locations, calculation, high interference location, operation location of who you are. Who are you? Why are you here? I keep saying that over and over and over. What is the purpose to understand this? So you can understand the disciplinary and the communication of structure of you committing yourself of what you come into is higher levels of set locations in travel position. So the mind consumes all knowledge of space and time. And I'll keep saying that over and over and over and over. But do you understand the knowledge of its intelligence of you first inside? Do you understand you? Do you understand the 3 set location of wires, set lines? There's 3 wires and set lines. Where's that set location system? Where? It could be anywhere set location system. What are you calculating with? Set line communications to hand lines and any position locations. Right? Through wire line interference, box line rotation interference, barcode set line communication setting. 3 wires and communications on line interference. Setting calculation line interference of 3 set line conditions off signal. In set line condition system, electrical line calculation setting. Okay, line condition of CPU line rotation interference, electrical wires, in-line communication line in positions to panels, operation to its center line, to its calculations to its box line, which is calculations of the male, box is male, or line communication system. All set lines of triangulation. Now you can put a triangulation communication, so you can put masculine and feminine into electrical line wires that sets line communication. So 2 line wires and set line communication system, balance calculation setting. Right? All through a barcode set location. Through 3 measure line centers of 3 wire communications, all through your CPU. So, it's true to understand that once you understand the 0 to 12, that is your foundation location, your DNA. That will never change. That will always be your set locations. But remember, everything you look at, it has its own DNA of 0 to 12. It has to, because it's connecting to you. So if it's connected to you, it's all levels of set location inside. Through its energy, vibration, frequencies, harmonics of communication. That's communication. Now, it probably doesn't say anything to you, but if I do it back through vibration, it sets out a tone to its frequency of what I'm communicating with. We all communicate to certain levels of the mind. You have to understand the operation of what it is through its frequency, guys. You got low frequency, medium frequency, high, and extreme. Okay, so there's so many levels that you can reach, but you have to really understand your geometrics of you first. All levels. Master the communication of you into voice grid setting. Recognition, pattern recognition, anything that's at locations. You start with the 0 operation, 2 calculations, 2 its powers of inside location settings, inset locations to its atmosphere of its ozone location. Are you communicating with the atmosphere? Are you communicating with the bioatmosphere? Are you communicating with the stratosphere? Are you communicating with the hydrosphere? What atmosphere are you communicating with? Where do you want to communicate with this? So coming into all calculations, why? Okay. W is why. Okay. Why? Equal line conditions of when. Okay. Where. And who. And what. Okay. Setting that communication line interference is all direct signal locations, all right? So you have to understand why. Why is this important? When? When is this going to happen? Where? Where is this going to get done? Who is this for? Right? And what is this all about? Right? You have to understand all that before you get in communications of how it works. How is the operation of everything? So that's a true understanding. Now, true understand in position of your 0 to 12 calculation system, your track lines into 13 is what? Your higher self. So what is your higher self in set location system? What is your higher self? What is the indication to go higher levels? What is the higher self? What is its purpose? To understand the integration to its communication of its avatar. So how does the higher self communicate with the avatar as its 2-in-1 setting? What is this? Satellite. Antenna. Your higher self is an antenna, which is in the operation of the ground levels. It stays in the operation of your earth. Operation of its earth. There's the antenna. Avatar is here. Congratulations. Okay? Higher self. Avatar. All right? Hooah! Now, we understand a little bit more how this all works in set locations. Right? Now you understand the purpose why you have the higher self of you, right? And you have the avatar set locations. Structure, higher levels of structure of GOD. DOE, in set line conditions, and high setting. So you have DNA, your higher self, DNA, the avatar. You put it together, integration settings, right? But remember, you're only dealing with one setting. So the actual higher self is the consciousness of its body. In set lines of 7, which is 5 of the atmosphere, which is 12 of your DNA setting. In set line communications, 13 is the higher self of its antenna, of its satellite. Okay, but it stays on its Earth set location. Satellite. Okay, your avatar is the mind of operation. So you're setting out signals in set location. All right, multipass. So now you understand the process and how this works in all formation location system, right? So now you really understand what that means. Remember I was saying I went into calculations and I showed you that video, how I had octave 1 and octave 7. Octave 1 was in my body, which is a higher self, never been done, and octave 7. So I had 2 higher selves, one in the grounds and one in space. Why do you think that was? I actually had a full body of intelligent setting. Octave 1 was controlling the earth perceptions of operation of my DNA. Okay? Because I knew exactly what the higher self was through its atom of its rotation, guys. Okay? So it's a molecular structure of you of design. That's all it is. In that communication system, so I had octave 1 that was controlling the earth grounds and had octave 7 that was controlling space of its planetary system. So if you are the operation of the ground lines of your higher self from 0 to 12, you start with your 7 bodies of water, H2O, hydrogen, calculations, helix, calculation line interference, inset location system, all calculated modified, helium, line calculation system, HP levels, water containment settings, plasma, water, crystal. Understanding how this works in all formation location is all levels of travel, mechanism location settings. It's how you use it inside of you every single day. And that every single day is the same day, just different vibration. See, that's how the mind alterates the system. It's the alteration of state of the mind that you're in through travel. What travel are you in the mind? Where are you in the mind? So if you look at the ground again, and you see it as grounds, you're not in position of its avatar. You're in the operation setting locations outside circle of the physical attachment location. And believe me, it is in that calculation system. You can get lost in that signal. And every time you look at that ground, that's not a ground. That's a hologram of a ground level, which means I'm in my avatar and I'm in my mind. So as long as I understand that I'm in my spiritual force into the physical alignment, which is its 1%, that's 99.9% line setting, which is equal line calculation system, positive or negative, 100% line calculation setting. You release that calculation line interference of 12, 24, 48, 72. You become 144 of 100% location of its mind alteration location of state, of set location, of its operation, of its design. Okay. So, wow, this is powerful stuff. 1 hour and 14 minutes and 40-second settings, right? Sets 40 line setting line interference, setting position, location, high center interference, and track locations. I usually don't go over an hour, but there's a lot to be in the positions to it. Formula is an equation. So we got a formula line condition of its equation set location system. Now, does that look like complete? Does it look complete? So I got the formula and I got the equation. I don't have to show you because I already know what it is, right? See, that's a true understanding. You're trying to understand the formula because you can't see the location yet. You can't see the direction you're going. So the formula is line calculations of box, line position of 2 box, line position of 3 box, 3 line position of 3 atom, line rotation, triangulation system, in position of 12, and now 24 line rotation interference, 48 windows, set line condition system, position of 72 computer operation streamlines, set line condition system, triangle communication line and positional levels, 144 line rotation in position line setting, circle line rotation interference and track location system, ground line setting, into 1 UFO line communication in position of crop circle condition. That my equation. So this is this. So we all have to understand how to understand the structure of its own design. You have to understand the operation, you have to understand the power, and you have to understand the atmospheres, and you have to understand the ozones. Ozone locations to its atmosphere location. All right, so you're dealing with the zero lines, you're dealing with the ether line, you have the ferment communication of the door line setting. Doors are open, set locations in both side location system, and track location. The avatar goes through the center. That's it. So that's a true understanding that we all have to understand how to use the 144 through crystal grid lines. Because you guys understand that's a crop circle, right? And so you stand on the set location system. This is all you do. You're standing on it. So set communications. All right. So in position. So this is off grid, offline. If you're offline, this is you traveling, lost and confused. You got to be on your grids. Setting position of panels, setting direct location center, operation to its surface, location to its Merkabah position. So you're always in the center operation all settings, all the time in your grids. If you're not, you're off grid. That's off grid. This is on grid. Off grid, on grid. And roguing is way up here in set locations. So you're going back, you're not going forward. Okay? So you have to really understand how this all works inside of you in set line position locations, right? So the first thing you got to look at is the zero line setting. You got 3 line communication set location system, right? Center operation, back on track line, right? Ground line operation surface. But you have to truly understand the Merkabah at position location is all levels of direct settings to its set line communication system. It tracks its communication line interference and all line communication, right? So you can set up so many line communications that travels, direction of time sequence. So this is a tesseract communication. Triangulation here, right? It's traveling, right? Travels line communication. There it is. Traveling, right? So you always have to have securities. You have to have perimeters and parameters. So line communication system, you got 3 and 6 and 8 in center, 9 at the top, and 12 at the bottom locations. All right. So 3, 6, and 9 in line calculation system. 3 is lines of the sun. 6 is the moon. 9 is you in the center line. All right. And 8 is your infinity, which is the center communication. And 12 is your clock line. All right. So 12 lines of clock lines. So you travel through a 12 line setting into infinity of 8, into 3 lines of the sun, and 6 locations of the moon, into 9 center line condition high setting, all through triangulation of 3 set locations. Okay? So we really have to understand how to really understand more levels of us in set locations. This helps you and always informs. This gives you exactly what you need to understand. Is use the mind in all ways of its process. It's so powerful if you really stay connected to yourself inside of you at all times. Okay? I'm just showing you exactly. This is what happens to your avatar. If you go offline, off grid, you have to understand that you lose your location grid and you lose track lines to your planets in location to all synchronous locations. Okay? You lose your planets, your solar system settings. You get lost and confused, and you go back, force and lines, a backlog, high centerline conditionalized system. Locked in signal, locked in parameter, locked in paradox, locked in its own paradigm, locked in its own signal. All through set location of its own operation. Because you didn't understand how to stay on its location grid. The formation location of its mind really understands all levels of what it's doing. Staying in line communications with your settings. Stay in the operation. Stay in your own lane. Right? No more being off grid. No more being all calculation offline or roguing set location system. Okay? Online, offline, roguing. Online, offline, roguing. You understand? So when you do that, what's going on with the avatar? What's going on with the avatar? What's happening here? You're all confused. What's going on? It's going, right? So what does it want to do? Get back on its grid. Its location. Being decisive and being understanding is being understood. Understand the communication system, right? So creating drama doesn't help the situation. So what the avatar does, it starts to think. And if it's thinking, it's hesitating. And if it's hesitating, it's glitching. And it's glitching, it's going like this in set location. Setting communications, now you're roguing completely. Now you're lost in signal, lost in position, locked in dimension to its position. So you don't want to do that. So there's a lot of communications offline setting. Really understand how to recognize the communication to your set location system. Really understand all levels of you inside, right? So master your communication of structure first through its operation, of its duty and its DNA. Okay? Because it simplifies everything when you understand the operation of you first. Okay? Get in friendship and relationships with everything that you see, everything you touch, everything you connect with, everything you smell. It's your senses, it's your sensories. Okay? Now you have 5 lines and 6 and 7 position of 8. You have 8 senses, which is your infinity. Anything above line interference, you're reaching higher calculation of chakras into higher calculation setting with stargates, star portals, star system locations. So that's the basic understanding how to use you through the mind of travel, of set locations and all setting. Okay? So congrats, everyone. This is amazing what you just finished doing. It's amazing how we come to line communications. 4 minutes on track to line communication of 12, which is amazing. So we got 4 minutes. And I'll see you guys on Zoom. Take out track interference, bring the team back in communication where they are, and calculate line and earth perception setting. All right, you guys are back. See that? See that slow motion? It just, right? I snap my fingers. That's a sound. Right? Everything has a sound. Everything has to have a sound. Everything has to have lights. Everything has to have treble. Everything has to have color, lights, and communications, all set in line conditions. Everything has to have a tone. Everything has a sensory, your impulses, and how you kind of like see lines, everything you hear lines, everything through voice line. How you set location system to your heart line, anything to your brain line, anything through your mind line, your imagination line, your phenomenon line, your correlation line, your communication lines, all set line communication letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. Of its all position, location, or algorithm of computer operation settings, guys. That's why it's so powerful. Okay? Setting that in communication system gives you all levels of calculations. All right? But congratulations, guys, on the team setting. All right? See you on Zoom.